What's going on, everybody? We're gonna try this one more time. I was the culprit. I messed up the live stream. I accidentally pressed N trying to switch over to my computer, but you know, conversation doesn't stop there. We had some good conversation going. I didn't want to cut off. I accidentally cut off my guy Brian McFadden, while he was responding. So we're gonna pick up where we left off and kind of give him the floor again. Talk about if Wilson and the Jets can do anything this year. So Brian.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Jelani. I don't remember exactly where it cut off, but what I was essentially saying was I love the coaching hire and Salah and Michael Fleur running that offense. I like their pick with Wilson. I think it's too early to make any type of judgment after 11 practices, not even a preseason game yet. They upgraded the offensive line. They upgraded the weapons. My questions for Will were more on the defensive side of the ball. And how do you feel that side is going to live up to all the changes they made in the offense? Obviously, they added Carl Lawson. They got Sheldon Rankins. They got Mosley back from opt-out. But what faith do you have on the defensive side of the ball for the Jets?
Most of the faith is around that front four. Is I said it's kind of off air. Like, I firmly believe, even unbiasedly, like they're a top 5, top 6 group by the end of the year. I think Quinton Williams is going to be a star. I think from that interior defensive line perspective, he's probably already a top 5, top 6 guy. If he's not, he's at least a top 10 guy in the first, last year. And, he should be able to, take the next step. Carl Lawson was really, really good, in Cincinnati from all the analytic perspective, and that should translate. And then, Rankins, you mentioned Bryce Huff and John Franklin Myers are 2 guys to watch out for, is, people to keep an eye on and see, how they're going to develop. They're both guys that kind of Joe Douglas found. And look, they've shown a lot of flashes. They have a lot more responsibility this year. I think a lot of the investments, the front four, Mosley, and then Marcus May at the back is a really nice player. LaMarcus Joyner, who mentioned today how misused he was with the Raiders. He was an all-pro level player with the Rams, and then the Raiders put him as a nickel corner. And he's not a nickel corner. I'm not sure why. I don't know why they did that. It's another John Gruden debacle. But, and then corner, Bryce Hall's a guy they drafted last year who's a top, second round, late first round talent. And then, had a really bad ankle injury, dropped pretty far in the draft. I thought that was a good pick. The other side, they took a shot out on 3 or 4 guys late in, this year's draft. So we'll see how that works out. Brandon Eccles today is a name to watch. He's a JUCO kid. He's got a weird body type for an outside corner. He's like 5'10", 180, which you wouldn't think of as playing an outside corner position. But he's really long and springy. Like, he's got really, really long arms and really, really long legs. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of develops. He had a really nice practice today. It's all about coaching for the Jets defensive side of the ball, right? They're going to be really young. Again, they'll get after the quarterback against teams that have a bad offensive line. Like week 1, the Panthers have a really good set of skill position guys, and Christian McCaffrey is obviously awesome, and we'll see how Sam does. But that game is a lot more winnable just based on the fact that the Panthers' offensive line is not great, to say the least, right? So, like, the Jets defensively is kind of, and honestly, team-wise, like you mentioned, like they're really young. For the most part, it's going to be a lot of coaching. If LaFleur is just as good as, as a play caller as we all hope, I think, from an NFL perspective, because he'll probably be a head coach in 2 years if that's the case. The Jets have a good shot, and defensively, Kinsella and Jeff Ulbrich, I'm sure you're familiar with, Johnny, from his time with the Falcons. If they can get those guys playing fast and physical and just keep them in games, I think it gives Wilson a chance to develop again, which is the main goal of the season, is win some games, build some confidence, change the culture, and make sure you have a franchise quarterback, and move into 2022 with probably 4 top 45 picks and some of the biggest cap space in the league, and you're in a good spot. If Wilson stinks and Robert Saleh is not as awesome as I think he is and everyone thinks he is, then we're back to square one. So it's all optimistic right now, but it has to be proven on the field, and I think all the concerns are very much valid.
This is the time to be optimistic as a Jets fan before any games have been played. Right?
No games have been played. And there's nobody's a bust. Nobody's a bust. There's all new energy. So we're gonna keep it trending upwards. We're gonna stray from the negative.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like you can't really go down. Like you said, optimism is the best thing, because you can only really go up. And there's a lot of you guys have a lot of pieces that can honestly have you on that trajectory anyway. So next we're gonna move on. Had a question for our Dolphins guy, Mr. Brian McFadden. I know you touched on a little bit in your opening statement, but still wanted to talk a little bit about Tua, but wanted to ask, will he take a step forward on offense? The main thing was, will he be able to be, or the main thing during the offseason, they surround him with a bunch of weapons, ones that are injury prone, but if on the field, they're very, very dangerous. But will he take a step forward on the offense, and will you guys, with his talents and maybe the step forward that we're expecting the defense to have, be able to get over the hump this year and make the playoffs?
Yeah, I was actually talking to Will a little bit about this off camera, specifically about Tua. There's a few things that give me faith that he's primed for a big season. It has nothing to do with the fact that the beat reporters in Miami are singing his praises right now. One, this is a guy who is coming off a very devastating hip injury, didn't have a proper offseason, and not just from a COVID perspective, but from a conditioning perspective. He's come back much stronger. He has dedicated the offseason to strength building and making his body more NFL ready. On top of that, Chan Gailey running the offense last year, very cookie cutter, very vanilla, wasn't allowed to make checks or calls at the line, was only allowed to have a certain amount of plays that he was allowed, was discouraged from pushing the ball down the field, mainly because they were worried, I guess, that Tua was going to turn the ball over, and that Dolphins defense was so good they were just making him be controlled. He only threw 5 interceptions, and 3 of those was in the last game against the Bills. This is a guy who wasn't making bad decisions necessarily, but he was very timid. The playbook was limited. He wasn't he was used to, they say, Alabama open, right? He's had multiple first round picks he was throwing to in Alabama, and now he's got the wide receivers for the Dolphins had some of the lowest amount of separation of any of pass catchers in the entire NFL. So on top of being normal NFL open, he had guys that just weren't getting separation. Devontae Parker, his route running is not his strength, and that was their number one. Gesicki got injured towards the end of the season. So what did you do? You get Gailey retired. I don't know if that was willfully or not, but he's out of the picture. They've got co-offensive coordinators now, completely open up the playbook. They started minicamp purposely having Tua throw the ball down the field, and he was throwing a whole bunch of interceptions, and there was stuff coming out like, oh, Tua's throwing picks, and Flores said, no, actually, that's what we want. We want him comfortable. We want to encourage him. We're just trying to throw the ball down the field. We want to get that to be a part of his game, as opposed to all this little tight. I mean, his average depth of target was like 5 yards or something insane last year. So he's being more aggressive there. He's more comfortable. He admitted he didn't even, as bad as the playbook was for him, he didn't even know it fully, right? He wasn't fully prepared. So they've opened up the playbook for him. They added a plethora of weapons, and Jalen Waddle, Devontae Parker doesn't have to be the number one. Will Fuller, when he comes back from his one-game suspension, as long as he can stay healthy, is a legit number one wide receiver. You've got players like Albert Wilson, who have been there for a few years, who are reportedly having a good camp. Mike Gesicki has the talent to be a top 5 tight end. I mentioned earlier in my opening that they had the third youngest offensive line in the league last year. You drafted 3 rookies in 2020 who all saw starting time in Austin Jackson, Solomon Kinley, and Robert Hunt. You've drafted Liam Eichenberg this year in the second round, who I thought was a steal. A lot of people had a first-round grade on him out of Notre Dame. It looks like he's primed to start actually at guard. And then you have Michael Dieter, who's looking to start for center, and he's a draft pick from 2019. So a lot of youth, a lot of players who are now primed to take a step in their second year. And you still have that great defense and great coaching. There's really no excuses. Will mentioned, like, if Wilson is horrible and you got to revisit, like, if Tua is horrible, like, there's no more excuses. You got the better protection. You got the better weapons. You have a better offense suited to your play style. Go out and do it, or we've got 2 first next year. We might have to restart this thing. I actually am erring on the side of, I believe that he'll do it. I'm not saying he'll be a superstar, but I think he'll be much improved, and I do think the Dolphins make the playoffs.
Yeah, that's the one thing you guys do have on your side. You guys always have a first round pick or 2 in your back pocket. So you said if he doesn't,
not always, only recently, because
that was recently.
Job as a GM.
Yep, that's what I was about to say. Within like the last 2-3 years for sure. But Will, I'll open up the floor to you. Any rebuttals? What do you think? You think Tua is the guy? Do you think they don't make the playoffs? What are we looking like, or what do you think they're looking like down in Miami country?
Yeah, so I mean, the Dolphins are kind of they're a weird case because I like Brian Flores a lot. I liked a lot of the way Miami rebuilt. The Jets have honestly kind of followed in a similar suit in a sense of defensive head coach, totally rebuilt the roster, kind of blowing everything up from what the remnants of the despicable Adam Gase. So it's kind of it, and right. And then the Dolphins kind of tanked for Tua, but still were good enough to win 5 games, and they ended up getting their guy. I wasn't the biggest Tua guy coming out of college. I was a huge Herbert guy. I'm a Pac-12 guy, and I loved the traits Herbert had. not noodle arm Joe Burrow. So, as great as he was, he looks like Chad Pennington in some senses. So, the Dolphins, again, they're interesting. They've got a lot of weapons. Jalen Waddle's awesome. Will Fuller, when he's on the field and he's not suspended, he's great. He's a great deep threat for the Dolphins. Gesicki, I like a lot. The secondary, Xavier Howard's awesome. The Dolphins defense, their secondary is really good. I really like some of the stuff they've done, defensively as a whole. They play really good team defense. Skill position guys, running back, they can always, continue to add, but they've got enough of the weapons. It's all about Tua. And if he can stay healthy, he's produced when he's been on the field for his career at Alabama or with the Dolphins. It's when he's either not healthy, it's his first offseason, in 2 years, coming back and having the full year. Same system, same, the whole 9 yards. So that'll be interesting. I think the Dolphins are probably somewhere between an 8 and 11 win team, depending upon how Tua plays. It's really difficult to tell because if he's good, they're probably an 11 win team. They're competing with Buffalo. And if Tua sucks, then the Dolphins are probably looking at, should we have drafted Justin Fields? Should we have moved up and taken Trey Lance? Like, why did we draft a receiver, right? Like it's a very much revisionist history if that's what happens, and you hope it doesn't. From a Dolphins perspective. But yeah, Tua is the question mark. And it doesn't help Tua that Justin Herbert went to another situation and was incredible. It doesn't help that Joe Burrow looked pretty good in the beginning, and not that they would have changed the pick, but that's what's making Tua look worse than he actually played. He played probably 3 bad games of the games he started, and the rest were fine. It's the Bills game at the end of the year and the Raiders game which stand out, because the Raiders game he gets yanked on national. The Broncos game he was awful, and it didn't help that he said the NFL was really easy the game before that, or expected it to be harder. It was just like he put his foot in his mouth a little bit.
Yeah,
and I think he was at Bama. He had the great comeback against Georgia. It was awesome, and whatever. But the Broncos game, he was bad. And then the Raiders game, he gets yanked on national television. And that sucked because Fitz brings them back, and it's great for the Dolphins, but it looks bad for him. And I said this to Brian off camera. I don't think Fitz is the guy that's good for young quarterbacks. He still thinks he could start. He still thinks he's the guy. He's not. I think I already took the Washington under. I think that team, between the COVID stuff and Fitz, Fitz has never made the playoffs. And I experienced it as somebody that lost the last game of the year. They just needed one win. That Jets team was really good. They had, it's the best Jets offense since 2010. So, again, Miami, I think, is really interesting. I think that they're a team that it's so reliant on the quarterback. They're very Giants-ish in that sense, where you think you've got the coach, you think you've got the GM to some sense. A lot of talent around these guys. Like the Giants and the Dolphins both have great skill position guys, young guys, vets, good defense. Can they get something out of the quarterback to put them in the playoffs? And Tua is a top 5 pick. He should be able to get it done. And that'll be the biggest question mark with a division that has 4 really good defensive coaches. And that's kind of the biggest issue for all these teams, quite frankly, going forward.
Yep. And
I will say I'm glad we have Tua instead of Daniel Jones.
yeah.
I'm not a Danny Dimes.
Woof.
Never was. Not in college, not coming out getting drafted number 6.
No, sir.
Yeah, not at all. Mr. Drew, what do you think?
I think Will said it all. I mean, I think it's based on Tua. I mean, everything else is pointing in the right direction. So, can he get it done? And I'm glad he pointed out that Georgia game. I mean, I was kind of a Tua guy. I mean, I'm down here in SEC country, and my team is garbage and has been the doormat for a while. So I get that in my face a lot. So I see other good players, and I just think he's I don't want to say regressed, but I don't think he's really improved since that Georgia game. I mean, to me, it's kind of been of a flat line. And I was a Tua guy. I really thought he was going to be the guy coming out of Alabama. And, he's been banged up since that Georgia game. I really question his arm strength. Can he get the ball to those receivers? Can he get the ball downfield to some of these, speed guys that they picked up? Those are my questions. And I mean, I think you're going to figure it out real quick. Because like say, no Fitz magic to step in there and cover his ass this time. So you're gonna figure it out real quick.
Yeah, nobody's worried about Jacoby Brissett coming in and taking.
Well, hey, he's had flashes of greatness too, but no, I mean, it's to his show. And if he gets it done, they'll be in the playoffs. And if he doesn't get it done, then 6, 7, 8 wins.
Well, Will brought up a really good point in that I don't think Tua gets as much hate if Burrow and Herbert do not have Herbert in particular, once in a lifetime rookie quarterback seasons. These are guys who now Burrow, a lot of that was volume. I mean, they were having to throw 40 times a game, but Herbert from day one, from snap one, was the real deal. And so you compare him to the guy drafted right in front of him who was not put in a great situation, but at the same time did not step up. Correct. We'll make him take some credit for that as well. And he's just unfairly compared. And my argument is always I've not been a defender. There has not been enough information defender. The jury should still be out. No one should be calling for Tua's head after 9 starts, no offseason coming off that injury. Entirely different conversation this time next year. On Drew, on the arm strength comment, I have always, even since college when I was analyzing Tua's game, because I figured he was going to go to Miami, I always pegged him as more of a Drew Brees type quarterback and not one of these Herbert, strong arm, Mahomes, rolled out type guys. And that his accuracy is one of his biggest strengths, his quick release, his twitchiness. He's good in the pocket, he's good at movement, and he's good at anticipating throws. He didn't get a chance to do any of that last year. He can hit the deep ball with accuracy and with touch. He doesn't have a cannon, he never will. But if he can get to that Drew Brees, and just the fact that he's a lefty might have something to do with that too. Yeah. But if he can get to that Brees level, distribute the ball to your playmakers, then that's a really high ceiling. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm not hoping for him to be some stud Aaron Rodgers type. I need him to be a Drew Brees type, a point guard, distribute the ball on the run, with accuracy and anticipation to your playmakers.
I mean, just by the way, in terms of like the Tua thing, is somebody that's been dealing with the Sam Darnold stuff for the last couple of years. And look, Sam, there's moments where Sam looked really, really good. There's moments where it looked really bad. Did it help that Lamar in year 2 won a unanimous MVP and that Josh Allen was a top 3, top 4 guy last year? Like, it doesn't help the case when, your quarterback's struggling and you're not really sure what you have yet, or you're kind of working your way through and there's another guy in that class doing really, really well. Again, I think you guys both hit everything with Miami. I just think it's all about, like, can they stay healthy? The offensive line of Miami that's really young, and it was a lot of guys that probably played a little too early last year. Can they develop in year 2? And can Tua develop enough to be a guy that doesn't lose you games? Because even if Tua is not like a superstar and he's the 17th best quarterback in football this year, then the Dolphins probably are a playoff team. And if he's the 29th best quarterback in football, they're probably in a situation where they're 6-11 and they're 7-10 because Flores is a really good coach and they're trading up in the first round next year to go get a quarterback.
Can I address the question or get?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Yeah, you can address it.
Well, that's the big question, and I mentioned it, and Will mentioned it as well. Is that there's a lot of players, a lot of rookies last year that are now coming into their second season. If they make the jump, Austin Jackson started to get better towards the end of last season. Robert Hunt actually played best of the 3. Solomon Kindley showed flashes. There's questions whether Kindley's going to start. But if Eichenberg comes in as a rookie and plays well, Dieter seems to be grabbing that center role. If that offensive line, once again, just gets to league average, if he's got time to distribute to they don't need to be an elite offensive line. They just need to give him time to get to this now much improved group of pass catchers. Then that's all they need. They just need to see improvements from their young players. So he can be that good with that offensive line, but they need to improve. They need to take that next step. And certainly improve on what they did last year.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like you said, just giving them time, because like you just said, he doesn't have to be Aaron Rodgers, extend the play, get out the pocket, find deep, go all downfield. Like you said, just be the point guard, distribute, give him enough time to make plays, because it's looking like you have guys, at least when healthy, they should be able to create some type of separation and make plays for him as well. But we're going to move on, Mr. Drew. His Pats. My question for you guys, like I said, you were in a very unfamiliar place last year. Just being, since kind of average, but at times showing that you guys are flashy. But we already, I felt the same thing. My stepdad, he's a Patriots fan, so the defensive side took a big hit with a lot of guys opting out to not play. Obviously, you didn't have many weapons on the other side. Another fun fact: Jacoby Myers is actually my best friend in middle school and in elementary school. Yeah. So it's cool to kind of see him grow up and get to the spot he's at today. But for you, my question is, will the Pats take back the division this year?
That's that's probably my bold prediction at the end of the night. Don't steal my thunder there now. I'm hoping for a wild card. I mean, obviously the Bills are good. They're really good. They're getting better. I mean, Josh Allen's not going anywhere. They're getting. I mean, Diggs is a stud. So they got that number one guy on the outside. Their defense is obviously above average. So I'm just hoping that Cam Newton is somewhat healthy. I mean, I'm hearing great things out of Mac Jones at camp. I mean, he's great accuracy. He looks the part. He plays the part in the huddle. I mean, all the bells and whistles are good. But I mean, can you really rely on a rookie quarterback that was 15th overall? He had 4 or 5 guys in front of him. I'm not putting much faith in him. I am hoping for a healthier Cam Newton. He absolutely looked atrocious throwing the football last year. I really don't know why. I mean, I want to say it's because of health, but I really can't answer. I mean, he couldn't hit a guy 10 yards, up the field wide open. Now, he didn't get many of those with some of the receiver constraints. But I just hope that the defense and Belichick are good enough to keep him in a bunch of games. And maybe there at the end they can make a few plays to get them to 10, hopefully 10 wins. I think if they can get to 10 wins, they got a good shot at getting in there. Anything else is better. I mean, you look at them last year, and for all intents and purposes, they should have won, 4 or 5 games and could have won 9, almost 10 if things would have gone the right direction. I mean, I wasn't thinking that they were going to win any of those games, but they definitely were in games that I didn't think they should have been. So, I mean, can they take the division back? No. I'm hoping for a wild card. I think they can do that. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm reading the comment.
Yeah, I was reading it too.
I mean, like I
he's
said,
ranking
the AFC is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Lot of teams there. They're going to have to get lucky. Their schedules doesn't really help them out. I mean, at Houston's a win. Hopefully, at the Jets early.
Hopefully not.
Let me get them early instead of late. I mean, week 4, Tampa Bay, that's going to be tough. New Orleans, week 3, I think that could be a win. I mean, if you could somehow start off, 2-2, 3-1 going into Tampa Bay, or I mean, get 2 wins going into Tampa Bay, either 2-1. Going into Tampa Bay, I think that's as good as you can do. But Houston, Dallas, Jets at LA. I mean, that's none of those are easy. So for not playing very well last year to get kind of a tough schedule, so to speak, doesn't help them out. But I'm crossing my fingers for 10 wins and a wild card spot. So to answer your question, I don't think they can take back the division, but let's get them back in the playoffs.
Yes, sir. Brian, what do you think? What's the answer? We have our viewer Six Trust kind of outline AFC for us, and within the last few years, it definitely has been a flip flop, and a lot of people felt the NFC was the more superior conference, but the AFC, in my opinion, these last 2-3 years has been incredible to watch, and there's a lot of teams vying for playoff spots. Luckily, they threw that extra one in last year and this year as well, but. What do you think about the Pats? Obviously, my Bills question, I wish he was here to defend it, but I'll open the floor up for everybody for that one at the end. But do you think they make the playoffs, like Drew was saying?
I don't think when we did our AFC East preview show a few weeks back, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, and it's not because of Belichick or that defense. I have questions about that offense. I think Mac should be starting. Cam Newton is just a shell of himself, and yes, he adds something in the run game, but he threw 8 touchdowns last year. And in today's NFL, if you can't stretch the ball passing, you're just not going to be able to compete, especially when you're going up against the Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs show in Buffalo. So I have questions about that offense. I don't think they'll be able to score points. I think the Dolphins' offense will be good. I think once Zach Wilson comes up, the Jets' offense will be good, and Buffalo already has one of the best offenses in the NFL. So that's just within the division, and not to mention the other teams that you have to play. He mentioned they play the Cowboys assuming they're healthy, how can you keep up with that Cowboys offense? Also going to be a top 3 to 5 offense. So it's just having a great defense is great, but in 2021 NFL, if you can't score points, you're not going to be able to keep up. Bill Belichick will get some wins. The fact that he finished 7-9 with that roster last year is a testament to his coaching ability. I think you're probably looking at around the same, even if they finish with 9 wins and go 9-8. I don't think that's playoff territory. With 17 games in the AFC. So I'm not saying they won't win another game or two, but I don't see them making the playoffs this season.
Yeah. Will, what do you think?
Yeah, the Pats are weird because they kind of went totally against the way they've done things for a long time. It kind of felt like Belichick was like, I've had enough of, but and Drew could test this more than anybody. Belichick is one of the best, if not the best coaches of all time. He's one of the best defensive coaches of all time. He's one of the best leaders of all time. All those things are true. And he was a good GM at one point. He has been a less than stellar GM and very bad at drafting over the last decade. He's drafted 1 Pro Bowler in the last decade, and that was a punter. So, you look at it, and the fact that he's been that competitive is a testament to Brady and Belichick over the last, decade, that every single year they've won Super Bowls. They've done all these different things, and it's exceptional. And Belichick went all in on free agency, and he spent somebody that had a blank check, and that we'll see how that pays off. Generally, it's a bad long-term strategy, but year 1 it pays off. It's all about quarterback, even more so than in Miami to me, because like you mentioned, and Drew mentioned this at the top, I don't know what Cam really has left. I think that the first 2 weeks he looked really awesome, and it was interesting to see. I was like, oh wow, maybe Cam got a resurgence a little bit, new system, gets COVID, and he looked really bad. I mean, he was really, he couldn't run, he couldn't throw, and I know he mentioned how much the system moved on without him, and then he was trying to get back up to speed, all these things. I'm not super high on Mac either. I thought he was probably a second-round quarterback that the Patriots took, knowing we can, Josh McDaniels is a really good offensive coordinator. If we put stuff around him, the tight ends, the running game, and defense, he'll be able to succeed. We'll see. The Patriots are really, the Patriots and Dolphins, I truly think are 2 of the hardest teams to predict, because they could be so all over the place. For the league, and the common concept of the teams that they're competing with. I don't think the Steelers are going to be very good. I think Big Ben was very bad last year, and I think he got masked by the fact that he threw for a bunch. He threw 500 times. The offensive line had 3 starters retire. The defense, they're really, really good. But again, Big Ben, I'm not sure what he has left. The Colts are already dealing with a bunch of injuries. I think the Raiders got a lot worse. The Broncos have one of the worst quarterback situations in all of football. If the Broncos had Deshaun Watson or Aaron Rodgers, I'd probably pick them to win the Super Bowl. That's how good I think that roster is, and I think that Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater are that bad, or that at least below average. And the Chargers are all. If Herbert takes another step and Brandon Staley's as good as I think he's going to be, I think they're a problem. They're just, those teams are in all these divisions. The AFC East and the AFC West are just so much more difficult to me than the AFC South specifically. So again, I know it's kind of a long-winded way of saying, I think the Patriots fall between 7 and 11 wins too. It's really if Cam looks pretty good and that defense is awesome, and Belichick just does another masterpiece of being the guy that has won Super Bowl after Super Bowl. Sure, they could compete with Buffalo and Miami all day long. And if Henry and Jonnu Smith and these guys click, if they don't, they're probably again somewhat similar to the situation they're in last year. They're 7-8 win team, and they miss out in the playoffs, and they're working towards figuring out another strategy in the offseason.
I just want to quickly second every single thing that Will said. We've done our AFC North preview. I have the Steelers not making the playoffs. I think the Raiders are last in the West. I think the Broncos have one of the best rosters for a team that won't make the playoffs because of their quarterback situation. So yes, 100% everything Will said.
I don't know why they just didn't they had it. I think there was a small chance there, and I know for a fact that there was a little bit of fire with the Rodgers stuff right before the draft. That's a situation where I know people were, with the parting of assets, and it's hard to part with first-round picks because you never know what they could be. But if I would have just given the 4 first-round draft picks, you have a 4-year window. You go win 1 or 2 Super Bowls, and you get the league MVP on that roster. And look what they did with Peyton. I just don't know how you could sit there and go, "Ooh, we'll trade a 4th rounder for Teddy, who wasn't very good last year and has always been kind of had to get carried. And Drew Lock, I can tell you from talking to people in that locker room, they do not want Drew Lock touching the field. He is a turnover machine, and it's really cool that he does a lot of like the young Jeezy stuff, and that's really fun for Twitter. But it doesn't matter on the field because he's awful.
That could be a top 3 defense in Denver. And if you have somebody like Drew Lock who's going to be throwing, he had 18 turnovers, tied for second in the NFL last year. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter how good your defense is. If you're only defending 25 to 30 yards, you're going to let up points. And that's going to frustrate a defense. So it doesn't surprise me that people in that locker room have said that exact thing.
Yeah. A lot of people have been saying this same thing. Like a lot of people felt like teams could have went all in on either trading for Deshaun if he does play this year or Aaron Rodgers. And like you said, it'd make them literally probably a top 2-3 team in the AFC, immediately. But, they feel like one of those two guys can get them over the hump, and we'll just let them, believe that. But we'll move on to the next question I kind of had. Well, I had one for the Bills fan, but it kind of my question also that I want to, I guess, present to everybody at the same time kind of goes with it as well. But, all 4 teams in this division have pretty, if not great defenses, already promising defenses. I believe even Will's team and the Jets have a promising defense coming up as well. But I just want to throw it out there. You guys can kind of go whenever you want, interrupt each other, whatever you may feel. But who do you guys feel has the best defense in the division?
Miami, and it's not because I'm a Dolphins fan. I think the Patriots have the potential to have a great defense, but they added so many pieces. We don't know if those pieces are going to work well together. Belichick's a great defensive coach, but Miami returned most of their core starters and then added pass rush was the thing they really needed. They added Jalen Phillips. Mm-hmm. There's certain metrics who think that Phillips has some of the highest potential for an edge rusher from the draft. The fact now, if they didn't bring Xavier Howard back, this would be a completely different conversation. But the fact that they locked him in, redid his contracts, that secondary, they're very opportunistic. They were I think they were number 1 in yards allowed until the Bills game. So they were the number 1 defense in the league until the very last week of the season. So yeah, I'm going to plant my flag on Miami here.
I would agree that Miami's probably the best defense, but as a guy with a rookie quarterback, I would least like to play the Patriots because Belichick absolutely owns 100%. Rookie quarterbacks. It's like it's honestly insane, some of the stats. Like rookie quarterbacks just don't beat Bill Belichick ever.
And they did
taxes. Yeah, and Bill Belichick beating rookie quarterbacks. Yeah, so I think the Patriots on any given week are the worst team to play from a defensive perspective. I actually think Buffalo's defense has taken a step back from the defense 2 years ago and last year. I think they've invested more heavily on the offensive side of the ball, which is totally fine. Like I don't blame them in any way, shape, or form. If the Patriots get Stephon Gilmore of 2 years ago, they're probably the best defense. And I think the Dolphins have the best group, but Stephon Gilmore is awesome, and him and Xavier Howard are probably the 2 of the top 5-6 corners in football. If maybe they're higher. I mean, whatever at Jair and Jalen Ramsey, I think are 1 and 2. But again, both defenses are really, really good. I think Buffalo's defense is solid, but gave up a lot of yards last year quietly. Their offense was exceptional, and the Jets have the best defensive line in the division, but they have the worst secondary in the division by a mile. So that's why they're not higher on the list for me, being just as unbiased as possible.
Yeah.
I
can be biased if you want.
Well, as well as they played last year, I think they got the Patriots. That is got some guys, some experience with some of those guys opting out, and I think I my Philly buddies dog it, but I love the Jalen Mills signing, to be honest, just from a depth standpoint. He can play.
He's much better at safety.
Yeah, and he can play a ton of positions. I just think he kind of fits that Belichick mold. And J.C. Jackson, played off the charts last year with a ton of picks. If you get Gilmore back, I mean, both of those guys on the outside can really shut you down. I mean, Jonathan Jones has been a great kind of nickel guy, fill in there for a while. So, I mean, the back 7 is outstanding. If they can get anything from the front, it's kind of Katie bar the door. I mean, I like the Matt Judon signing. It's always been kind of a committee deal up front for New England, which is fine. I mean, that's how Belichick wants to do it, bend but don't break. But yeah, I mean, across the board, I think the AFC East defenses are all really good. I agree that, Buffalo's probably taking a step back, but, Miami's as good and as athletic as they come. So, and obviously the Jets are getting better. I mean, just think if, oh no, I said Jonathan Jones. I said him. Great nickel corner. He fills in good.
He said he forgot to mention it.
Okay, yeah. And he's easy to forget, like I say, but really experienced back there. But just think if the Jets hadn't, given away a couple of key pieces the last couple of years, how good that defense would be.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because if you look at all these different teams, I'm sure we can get in this before we wrap and stuff, but all these different teams have like standout position groups where they're like really, really good. And like New England's back seven and their offensive line are really, really good. And they have question marks kind of, and their tight end group, on paper is really good. It's hard. We'll see. The rest of the team's kind of like, what are we going to get? Miami is like, their back seven's really, really good. And if you get anything, and their skill guys are really, really good, it's all about quarterback and offensive line more so for them. The Jets, I think it's pretty much, it's the secondary and it's guard is not pretty right now. Right guard is brutal. Elijah Vera Tucker pulled his pec the first pad of practice. He'll be back for week one, but you watch today and Carl Lawson is just murdering people in practice because he's a really good pass rusher going against backup guards. And then Buffalo's, we'll see how the back seven plays out. They've got guys that have been good in the past that haven't been as good recently. So no, it's just interesting. You it's like the back seven in Miami, New England is awesome. And if they get pass rush, the defensive head coaches are so good in this division. They're probably 4 of the 7 best defensive coordinators, if not 4 of the best 4 defensive coordinators in football. They're that good. I don't know. It's scary. That's what's difficult, having 3 rookie or second-year quarterbacks potentially starting by week 2.
Well, Flores has essentially mirrored the Belichick model on defense.
Yep.
And is the one Belichick disciple that seems to actually be making it work.
It's because he's from New York.
Right, there you go. Yeah. That's right. Brooklyn or Bronx? Brooklyn, right? Yeah, good guy.
Oh man, yeah, but I guess like I said, we don't have the Bills fan to kind of defend themselves. So I really kind of want y'all to tear them apart. But
there's nothing to tear. They're gonna. I think we can all agree. The Bills are gonna win the division. Come on.
Oh man.
Josh Allen got paid, MVP runner-up. The defense, they're not going to be great, but the Chiefs' defense isn't great. If you have
the Josh Allen regression circle is prey.
There we go. We can only hope.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. You don't want. It seems like this guy's going to be running the division for a minute, and I know you guys are have a little bit of experience with one quarterback kind of running the division for a minute. He just isn't one of the guys that's right now in this room, but. We're gonna come down to the end of the show almost. I know a lot of through you guys' comments and rebuttals and everything. You guys kind of said record predictions for each other's team, but we're just gonna kind of get it on record now. And I'll start with you, Will. Record predictions for your team, and then you can go around the horn. Record predictions for everybody else as well.
I think get into both predictions. I think Bills go 13-4. I think they are. I guess technically a game worse than last year because they lose the extra game, but they probably are similar to the way they were last year. The only caveat is legitimately if there's a COVID thing with them that truthfully them in Washington and Minnesota seem to have real issues where the rest of the NFL is pretty much fully vaccinated, so that shouldn't be an issue.
It's okay. Kirk Cousins is going to put glass protectors around everybody.
Don't get me started on Kirk Cousins. That guy on live TV was so proud of himself for bailing on the Jets, and I couldn't be happier. He's not my quarterback. So, I think Buffalo goes 13-4. I think Miami goes 10-7. I think New England goes 9-8, and the Jets go 7-10. I think by the end of the year, and this will be my 2 bold predictions. I'll just throw these in here now because I feel like it'll go into it. I think Elijah Moore will be the best rookie receiver in football. In terms of his production, it's from his rookie year. And I think Zach Wilson will be regarded as the second best quarterback in the division by the end of 2021 going forward. So the Jets will go 7-10, but people will be really excited about the core of Moore and Wilson going forward.
Okay. Stan, you said second, you said by the end of next year.
Yeah,
right?
like by going into like 2022, and we're
2022,
doing this
okay.
show next year. We're like it's
Mhm.
Allen and then it's Wilson, like in the division for the next
Okay.
5 to 10 years, and Tua and Mac, behind. But not saying they're going to be bad. I just think Wilson is going to show the potential that people are going to be like, this guy's going to be awesome going forward. And Elijah Moore is going to have, I think he'll have 1,000 yards and be that guy that people are going,
like
this is
Elijah
another,
Moore.
people are going to go, wow, this guy's really, really good and looks like a Tyler Lockett, Antonio Brown type size and stuff like that receiver. But I don't want to give the Antonio Brown stuff because I feel like, A, not the best person, and B, that's a lot of praise for a guy who's never played a snap yet.
Yeah, that is true. Mr. Drew, I'll go with you next. Record predictions for your Pats and then for the rest of the division. And then if you want, you can pull in your bold predictions as well, too.
All right. Well, I'm going to keep the faith and say the Pats are going to go 10-7 and slip in the playoffs. I think the Bills are probably going to go 13-4. I mean, I don't really see them slipping up. I think the division will be a little bit better this year, but they'll probably still dominate as they should. Let's see here. I've got the Dolphins. I'm going to say 9-8. Tua is on the come, but I don't know if he can lead them to the playoffs. And then we'll go 6-11 for the Jets. I hope Wilson plays well. I've got a good buddy that's a diehard Jet fan, so he's been in the doldrums for a while. I always talk about the butt fumble, so we always pull that out on each other. But I think it's going to be a really, really strong division. I mean, I think you've got possible 3 playoff teams, possibly that could make the playoffs. I don't want to say 3 playoff teams. But here's my bold prediction. We'll go Mac Jones steps on in for Cam and leads them to the playoffs, kind of Brady-esque. Maybe week, I don't know, 6 or 7, Cam gets dinged up. They're maybe they're 3-3 and Mac rolls 3 or 4.
If they do that, if that happens week 7 against the Jets in the Bledsoe Brady thing, I'm gonna probably have to jump off a roof.
Hey, just bring Mo Lewis back out there; he'll take care of us.
Oh, good God!
So that's all I got, fellas.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. I now I'm kind of hoping that does happen. It's just for I guess nostalgia purposes. But Brian, what do you think? Record predictions for your Dolphins, and then bold prediction if you do have them.
So I'll start from the top. I think the Bills are going to go 14-3. I mean, that offense was so good, and there's no signs. We can hope that Josh Allen is going to regress, but I didn't see anything. I was a doubter, and he just proved me wrong throughout the season to where I couldn't help but admire. I think adding Stephon Diggs was a masterpiece. So I think they clearly win the division at 14-3. I do think my Dolphins are going to win 11 games. I got them at 11-6 and making the playoffs. I'm struggling with the Patriots at 9-8 or 8-9, but because it's the Patriots, I'm gonna say 8-9. Even though Belichick probably won't get another losing record, but I just want to. This might be my only time to say that. And then I think I'm gonna do 6-11 for the Jets. I think there's gonna be a lot of things to be happy about as a Jets fan. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Saleh as a hire. I think he's gonna really change the mood around that organization. I don't just think it's hype. And what do we say? That's 4 extra wins. What is a 200% increase in wins?
Yeah.
So from 2 to 6, that is a great season. Wilson will flash. My bold prediction: Tua, 3,500 plus yards, 25 passing touchdowns, and I think the Dolphins win a playoff game in the wild card round.
Okay, get to the playoffs and win a playoff game. I like that. I think they definitely have the capability to do that. But I guess real quick before we do, I do let everybody go through with their final, closing arguments why they should vote you in and all that, and get the plug in where everyone can find your work. I guess I've been struggling with it. I was struggling with it last year, and I guess it didn't matter too much. And maybe somebody said it last night, one of our NFC North show. But do you guys not really? Do you guys not think the lack of running attack that the Bills had is a question coming into this year? I know. Devin Singletary, was the lead back. He kind of split time with Zach Moss. Zach Moss wasn't as impressive as a lot of people thought he might be last year, but coming to it's his second year, maybe it's a full year under his belt, he will pop a little bit. I know they signed Matt Breida, right, Brian? Yeah, okay.
Breida
so I
Bills,
mean, yeah. So I mean, I guess they got pieces. They got that can play in the backfield. But are you guys not too concerned, or obviously you're not a Bills fan, but just outside looking in, do you think it doesn't really phase them too much? Like, will it not be something like maybe defenses key in now, like, all right, we just take, Josh Allen's arm away, we make them try to run the ball. We have a front seven that can pretty much stop the running attack, especially you guys in your division. Just kind of how you guys feeling about that, because that was the one question I had about them last year, and I personally felt like they should have lost that game against the Colts because of that. But what do you guys think?
If Philip Rivers could have moved, I think that the thing with the Bills is that, like, there's games the Jets held them multiple times to under 30 points. Like, they held them 17 points one game, and it's like, the Jets couldn't score either, so that they couldn't score against anybody. But no, the Bills are they're weird because, like, you look at a lot of places and you're not as high on them as I was last year. But I'm also like, Josh Allen should only continue to get better. And like Stephon Diggs, as great as he was, can only continue to get better. And this offense can only continue. Like, tight end's probably a spot where they aren't as great, in running back as well. But Daboll's a really, really good offensive coordinator. And I just think that maybe the defense improves and takes another step back to where they were in 2019 when they made the playoffs, and Josh Allen wasn't quite as good, and they still were a playoff team. I don't know. The Bills are like, I'm not sure. You have to kind of hope that Zach Moss isn't better in year two, which I think all the reports are he has been better in camp. But again, it's camp, and it's hard to tell until you put on, the tape versus a new opponent. Maybe, Cole Beasley, for some reason, something happens, and Josh Allen gets the sugar high Josh Allen, where he makes the 2 to 3 mistakes a game with the crowd noise and everything. Like, you're kind of just like hoping like things happen. It's, I just don't, I don't know. I'm not sure I see a way that the Bills don't win the division unless Josh Allen regresses, which, again, Brian made a good point, and I couldn't agree more that there's no reason to, because his clean pocket accuracy was as good as it's ever been. He's kind of an anomaly in that sense. And if the Patriots, Dolphins, and Jets are all really good, maybe the Bills aren't as good. But it's really difficult for me to see the way that, their offense is built around Josh Allen being able to do both. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you need a run game with the way that offense is set up. In the same way, you don't really need a run game in Kansas City. The one place I think they could improve from the running backs is out of the backfield, as far as being better pass catchers, because Devin Singletary and Zach Moss weren't really involved enough, especially, as Will said, there's not a great tight end there. Dawson Knox has had drop issues. There was a hot minute where they were going to trade for Zach Ertz. That didn't happen. So if you don't have a solid tight end receiver over the middle, you're going to need help from your running backs out of the backfield. So if there's some sort of improvement from Moss and Singletary, that's where it should be. But I don't think you need some sort of studly running game. That's not you. That's not Daboll's offense. You're going to rely on Allen's scrambling ability, his ability to pick up gains on the ground, his ability to push the ball downfield and throw to Diggs. So as long as they get a little bit of improvement out of the backfield, out of those two guys, they'll be just fine.
Yeah, I don't think that they don't need to get it. They don't need to have a 2,000-yard rusher or anything. But I do think that they're going to utilize a little bit more this year, just trying to keep Allen upright and healthy. They probably don't want to run him as much, but obviously that's a very good attribute he's got, so you'll see it. But I think you'll see some more run out of Zach Moss, just to take some of the heat off of Allen whenever they can, especially in games that they probably, think they should win. I think that the carries will go up, but no, I don't. It's not going to make or break them. That's for sure.
Yeah.
The one thing I was, oh, my bad. Go. My bad.
I was just going to say, I have Zach Moss on multiple fantasy leagues, so I hope that he gets more goal line touches.
I just, the Browns and the Bills are in kind of an interesting situation from, like, the Browns, it's the question marks are now like, this team's really good and they should have beat the Chiefs last year. And maybe that was their chance. And, you never know if you're going to get back there, even though that roster is loaded, and, you'll see what happens. And now the question marks are more about Baker. And quite frankly, from a coaching perspective, McDermott's been really awesome, but he kind of looked, like a deer in the headlights in that AFC title game. And did he learn from that? Does Baker learn from that Chiefs game? Or do they is that who they are? Because in both cases, those rosters are good enough to win a Super Bowl. And they've got guys, they're teams that are good enough to win a Super Bowl. Stefanski's awesome. I think he's one of the best coaches in football. Those are the two teams for me. It's like, if someone's going to dethrone the Chiefs, I think those are probably the two teams that people are looking at. They're probably the betting favorites to do so. There's other teams, obviously. The Ravens are really good, and we'll see with Lamar and with his COVID stuff, because that's a whole disaster. But it just will be interesting. Yeah, twice, and it won't get vaccinated in the whole 9 yards. But I just think those are the two teams. Buffalo is very much a Super Bowl contender. They are, but let's see what happens. They haven't. They've got to go ahead and prove it. They've made a step each year. Now maybe it's the year they overtake Kansas City. I think they're going to push hard for home field, though, because that Buffalo crowd is a huge advantage to them. Yeah. There's certain teams that the home field is really important. And you think of the New Orleans and Seattle's and Kansas City's of the world. So I'm interested to see how much they've rested starters late in the year, the last couple of years. And I don't see them doing that again, because I think that they realize going to Kansas City is a little different than getting Kansas City in Buffalo in the middle of January.
Yeah. I'll say, instead of the running game, the pass rush is, if they want to get ahead of the Chiefs, they have to do what the Bucs did to Mahomes. That seems to be literally the only way to stop him, is make him run for 498 yards behind the line of scrimmage. So if there's one area of focus the Bills really need to address and they drafted multiple pass rushers. It's improving that pass rush. That's how you get ahead of Kansas City.
It's my least favorite pick of the first round, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Yeah, I was like, that does seem like the only, recipe for success. But I guess on the other hand, Kansas City did address those offensive line issues. Obviously, they had two starters out, but
fucking Trey Smith in the 6th round, man. That guy was a 3rd round, 2nd round talent. He's going to go start.
It's just ridiculous how the rich get richer. But I appreciate everybody for staying up with me. I appreciate you guys for coming on, for sure. This was definitely a very, very, very great show, insightful. Even though we was missing our Bills fan, you guys did take it easy on him and gave him a little bit of praise, actually. But before we head out of here, I did want to, of course, give you guys the chance to let everybody know where they can find you and kind of your closing arguments why your team will be better than they were last year, and then why you should move on to the next round. So I'll start with you, Brian.
So I'm a co-host of the Pigskin Party podcast. You can find us everywhere you find podcasts. We're on YouTube as well. We're a podcast that covers the entire NFL, but we mix it with a little bit of pop culture and a lot of humor. It gets off the rails pretty quickly, so it ends up it's a party, I also run a weekly audio room on Halftime. So if you're not on Halftime, Jelani will tell you that's the place to be. Great sports community. They just opened it up to the NFL, Major League Baseball, hockey, all that stuff. I already made my bold take. I'm excited. It's a good time to be a Dolphins fan. At least right now, it's a good time to be a Jets fan. It's a good time to be a Bills fan. It's a good time to be an AFC East fan. We've been in the cellar for a long time behind the Patriots, so I'm very excited for 2021.
Late comment. But Will, what everybody?
Yeah, so I host the Turn on the Jets podcast. Same thing. Find it anywhere you find podcasts. At WillPaul11 on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, the whole 9 yards. Cover the NFL, mostly the Jets, mostly an interview style show. It's analysis. It's been very lucky to have a lot of amazing guests, current Jets players, former ones, people that cover the team, cover the league. So check that out. I think, that and Badlands podcast that Joe Caproso and Connor Rogers host, that's part of the channel as well. It's something to check out. I think, again, the Jets can't be much worse than they were last year. One of the worst teams I've ever watched in my entire life. Thankful there was no fans. So, anything's going to be better, but, there's a lot of young talent, a young coaching staff, a really exciting, coach who seems to get it as a human being and a leader more so than anything, which I'm really excited about. And, it's a very exciting time to be in the AFC East. A lot of really young talent, young coaches, got, obviously the veterans and Belichick and stuff like that. But, I appreciate you having me on. And again, make sure you guys, if you want to check some Jet stuff out or just NFL content in general, follow Twitter and the podcast. And thanks again. I'm more than happy to hop on anytime.
Of course. And before I let Drew go, I think this year I'm going to mix it up and we're going to do I don't want to call it a reunion show, but I already told the other groups, we're going to come back, see if these bold predictions, if these record predictions, if everything that we talked about during the show actually comes true. Because there was a lot of stuff that was said last year that we probably should have came back, because a lot of people saying some pretty wild stuff, but this year we got it on record, and we're gonna bring it back up and have a reunion show. But Mr. Drew Rogers, appreciate you for coming on tonight. Let everybody know, I guess, where they can find you as well.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, Jelani. No, just a sports enthusiast. I sell beer during the day, so that's pretty cool. Played college sports, but just try to keep my nose and my ear to the ground. Do my research and watch all the games. I'm actually a big time baseball guy. I probably watch more baseball games than most, so that's an odd 9 innings at a time. But love my Pats. Hopefully we can get back on track this year. It's going to be a lot of Belichick and McDaniels.
Hopefully not.
That's okay. I get that. A lot of Belichick and McDaniels. Hopefully, they can scheme it up. I need a little bit out of Cam. I know my bold prediction is for Mac to come in and save the day. So, kind of playing both sides of that. I mean, I need to do what he needs to do, but Mac wants to come in and win a few games, and that's fine. I think that they're 8, 9, 10 win team. Lot of good football in the AFC East. I mean, we're going to drop one of the Jets minimum. I'm sure we'll split with the Bills. I hope we can split with the Dolphins. We'll see what happens. So appreciate you having me on anytime, guys. Enjoyed it.
Yes, sir. Yes, and me as well. It's pretty funny, like you say, playing both sides of the fence. You're just like one of the quarterbacks. Y'all gotta do something for us. We gotta make something happen. But
it's not Stidham.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that does it for us tonight. Like I said, this was a great AFC East, SmackTalk, great AFC East preview, and this is one of the divisions I'm definitely excited to watch some football from this upcoming year. So definitely check out all of these guys' podcasts, their shows, halftime shows, like I said, with Brian on the halftime map. Before we get out of here, definitely do want to plug in one of the newer sponsors for Off the Ball Network, MyBookie. If you match up to 50% off, or they match up to 50% off your first deposit and up to $1,000, which I believe is the largest bonus in the industry. So if you do go to mybookie.com, type in Off the Ball Network, or just Off the Ball as the promo code, sorry. You can win big with MyBookie. They have the highest credit card acceptance rate and a 48-hour payout. So, like I said, go to mybookie.com, use Off the Ball as a promo code, and let's all win big. I guess real quick, anybody got any betting lines for your AFC East before we close out? We could close out with that if you guys do have any over-unders, anything we should take.
I gave my couple ones that I really like. Connor Rogers mentioned this on our show earlier. The Houston Texans are plus 550 to be the last winless team. I think that's a lock. I think Houston is going to struggle to win one game. The Jets over 6.5. That's probably slightly a homer bet, but I think it's good value. It's plus 180, 190. I don't think it's good value there. Zach Wilson won Rookie of the Year is plus 1,000. A quarterback's won 18 in the last 21 years. He will be one of the only guys that's starting from week 1, and I think the Jaguars are in our worst spot. So if Wilson's even remotely good, I think he has a chance just because usually quarterbacks win. Mm-hmm. Washington under. Unless Trey Lance. Well, Trey Lance. Then
if Lance gets in that shit,
if Lance gets in there, it's over. But I like Washington. Like I mentioned, Washington and Minnesota unders. I like just because I think the teams and the coaching staff are on different pages. Green Bay to win the division was plus 150, which makes no sense. So maybe that's a line that's kind of a tease, but I think they're pretty clearly the best team in the division. And the last one that I loved, I love from a value perspective. The Giants to win the division was plus 600. And as much as I don't like Daniel Jones, I think that if that division was awful last year and they could have won it and they added a lot of pieces. So those are just some ones that I as researching. Oh, the last one, sorry. Sean McVay to win Coach of the Year is plus 1,800. And if the Rams are as good as I think they're going to be, there's a good chance he wins that award. And that's a pretty nice payout for a guy who's already regarded as a top coach.
Yeah, I might take that one because we did have a little bit of, I don't know how it came. Oh, it came up because of the Matt Stafford trade yesterday. But I think I might take that one if it's a nice little payout for sure. But answered 6. I think I just answered him, but yeah, we'll do AFC North. I think in the upcoming weeks, and I think we'll be doing NFC West tomorrow as well. So we'll be talking a little bit about Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and the Rams over on that side. But thank you again, everybody, for staying up with us, joining us. thank you to these wonderful gentlemen as well for providing the expertise. Definitely glad I was able to find you guys. And however I found you guys, I know I was searching high and low for certain fans and certain teams, but definitely glad I was able to find you guys and get you on the show. Shout out Off the Ball Network. Shout out to everybody for, like I said, tuning in, retweeting. Shout out to you, Six Trust, as well, for being active in the comments and bringing all your questions and everything as well. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a good night and be safe.